Hi there. Welcome back to English Daily Podcast. In today's lesson, we're going to learn some important English expressions and phrases through a story. This story will help you improve your vocabulary, listening skills, and learn how to talk about decision-making in English. Stick around until the end because I'll also explain how to use these expressions in your daily life. Let's dive into the story. Once upon a time in a small town, there was a man named Jack who owned a bakery. Jack's bakery was famous for its delicious bread, cakes, and pastries, and people from nearby towns came just to taste his fresh goods. But one day, Jack was faced with a difficult decision. A large supermarket chain wanted to buy his bakery. They offered Jack a lot of money, more than he had ever seen in his life. If he accepted the offer, he would never have to work another day, but he would have to give up the bakery, which was his life's work. Jack was torn. Should he take the money and retire early, or should he keep running his bakery, which brought him so much joy? He decided to seek advice from his friends. First, Jack visited Sarah, his childhood friend who was a financial advisor. "I think you should sell," Sarah said. "You could invest the money and live comfortably for the rest of your life. Plus, running a bakery is hard work. You deserve a break." Jack nodded but felt uneasy. He then went to see Peter, his longtime friend and fellow business owner. Peter's response was different. "Jack, your bakery is more than just a business. It's part of who you are. If you sell it, you might regret it later." Jack thought deeply about their words. He was still unsure, so he decided to take a walk through the town. As he passed by his bakery, he saw customers laughing and enjoying their food. He realized how much happiness his bakery brought to the community. Jack smiled and finally made his decision. The next morning, Jack declined the offer from the supermarket chain. He knew he wasn't ready to give up something that meant so much to him. He was happy with his choice and felt a weight lift off his shoulders. Jack continued to run his bakery for many more years, always reminding himself that happiness wasn't just about money, but also about doing what you love. In this story, Jack had to make a tough decision, and we learned some useful phrases for talking about decision-making. Let's go over some of them. Faced with a decision. This means having to make a difficult choice. In the story, Jack was faced with the choice of selling his bakery or keeping it. Torn between two options. When someone is torn between choices, they feel unsure about what to do. Jack was torn between selling the bakery and keeping it. Seek advice. This means to ask someone for their opinion or help. Jack sought advice from his friends, Sarah and Peter. Decline an offer. This means to say no to something. Jack declined the offer from the supermarket. A weight lift off your shoulders. This is a common expression that means to feel relieved. Jack felt relieved after making his decision. You can use these expressions when you're talking about your own choices or helping someone else make a decision. That's it for today's lesson. I hope you enjoyed the story and learned some useful English expressions along the way. Remember, practice makes perfect, so try to use these phrases in your own conversations. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to English Daily Podcast. See you next time. Welcome to the English Daily Podcast, your go-to source for boosting your English skills every day. We bring you engaging conversations, helpful tips, and real-life stories to make learning English fun and effective. Whether you're a beginner or an advanced learner, we're here to support your journey to fluency. So sit back, relax, and let's dive into today's episode.
Once upon a time, in the peaceful kingdom of Lyria, there was a princess named Alara. Unlike other royals, who spent their days at banquets or feasts, Princess Elara was known for her adventurous spirit. She loved roaming the forests, befriending woodland creatures, and learning the secrets of her kingdom. One day, Elara heard rumors of a dragon that lived deep in the mountain of Brindle's Peak. According to legend, this dragon, once a fierce guardian of ancient magic, had fallen into a deep sleep after a terrible curse was placed upon it. It was said that whoever dared to approach it would vanish, never to be seen again. But Elara was not one to be dissuaded by tales of danger. In fact, she was captivated by the idea of meeting a creature of such legend. So, she took her cloak, packed a bag of berries and bread, and set off towards Brindle's Peak. After a day of trekking through misty forests and climbing steep trails, Elara found herself at the mouth of a great cave hidden beneath a waterfall. She took a deep breath and stepped inside. The walls glittered with veins of crystal, casting rainbows onto the cave floor. The air was filled with a warm glow, and she could feel a powerful presence. In the center of the cave lay a magnificent dragon, curled up with scales that shone like emeralds and eyes that glowed like embers. As she stepped closer, one great eye opened, and a deep, gentle voice filled the cave.
"Why have you come here, child of Lyria?" asked the dragon.
Elara's heart was pounding, but she steadied herself and said, "I've come to find you, great dragon. They say you are cursed, but I think you are lonely. I don't believe that you're dangerous, only misunderstood." The dragon studied her with curious eyes, and a low rumble like distant thunder filled the cave. "You are brave, Princess Elara, and your heart is true, but I am indeed cursed. Long ago, I was the guardian of the ancient magic that sustains this land. But a jealous sorcerer, filled with envy, cast a spell upon me. Now I am bound to this cave, neither fully awake nor truly at rest, until someone with a pure heart breaks the spell."
"And how can it be broken?" she asked, determined to help.
The dragon looked away, sadness filling its gaze. "To break my curse, one must give something precious and selfless to the mountain. Only such a gift could restore the balance of magic." Elara thought for a long moment, looking at her small bag of supplies. She had nothing of great value with her, no jewels, no treasures. But she realized that her journey had already brought her to something she could offer, her freedom. She looked at the dragon with compassion in her eyes.
"I will stay here with you," she said, "to be your companion and friend, if that is what it takes."
The dragon's eyes widened, and it shook its great head. "I could not ask such a thing. Your heart is noble, and your life is yours to live. But your offer shows me something I had forgotten. That kindness is the greatest power of all." With her offer made from such sincerity, a golden light began to fill the cave, breaking through the dark enchantment that had imprisoned the dragon for centuries. As the light grew brighter, the dragon let out a triumphant roar, and in a flash, its form began to change. When the light dimmed, standing before Elara was not a dragon, but a young man with eyes like embers and a warm, gentle smile.
The dragon-turned prince bowed to her. "Thank you, Princess Elara. You have broken my curse, and in doing so, restored the ancient magic. My name is Cedric, and I owe you my life."
Elara smiled, her cheeks flushed with joy. Together, they returned to the kingdom, where Cedric's wisdom and Elara's courage became legend. They worked side by side, guiding Lyria into an age of peace and prosperity, with the spirit of the mountain watching over them. And so, the princess and the dragon, now prince, lived happily, bound not by chains or spells, but by a friendship that had saved them both. And whenever travelers climbed the mountain, they could swear they heard the echoes of a dragon's gentle roar, watching over the kingdom forevermore, and they all lived happily ever after.
Breaking down some idioms and phrases of the story.
Break the ice, meaning to initiate conversation in a way that makes people feel more comfortable, especially in a group or formal setting. Example, he told a funny story to break the ice before the meeting started. Piece of cake, meaning something that is very easy to do. Example, don't worry about the exam, it'll be a piece of cake. Hit the nail on the head, meaning to be exactly right about something, to perfectly describe or identify a situation. Example, you really hit the nail on the head with your analysis of the problem. Under the weather, meaning feeling slightly ill or unwell. Example, I won't be able to attend the meeting, I'm feeling a bit under the weather. Explanation, this phrase is used when someone isn't feeling their best, usually due to minor illness or fatigue. Bite the bullet, meaning to force yourself to do something unpleasant or difficult. Example, I didn't want to work on the weekend, but I had to bite the bullet to meet the deadline. Explanation, originating from when soldiers would bite on a bullet during medical procedures, this phrase now means to endure something hard with determination. Costs an arm and a leg, meaning something very expensive. Example, the concert tickets cost an arm and a leg, but it was worth it. Explanation, this idiom is used when describing something with a high price, often something desirable or hard to get. Spill the beans, meaning to reveal secret information, usually by accident. Example, she spilled the beans about the new project before it was announced. Explanation, this phrase is similar to let the cat out of the bag and usually implies that the reveal was unintentional. Hit the sack, meaning to go to bed or go to sleep. Example, I'm exhausted. I think I'll hit the sack. Explanation, this is a casual way to say you're going to sleep, often used when someone is very tired. Caught red-handed, meaning to catch someone in the act of doing something wrong. Example, the thief was caught red-handed with the stolen goods. Explanation, this idiom likely comes from being caught with blood on one's hands and now refers to being caught in the middle of any wrongdoing.
Thank you for tuning in to the English Daily Podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with others who want to improve their English. Remember, practice makes perfect, so keep listening, keep practicing, and keep growing. Catch you in the next episode. Happy learning!
Welcome back to the English Daily Podcast, where we explore fascinating stories behind the words and phrases we use every day. I'm your host, Liv Morgan, and today, we're diving into the origins of two words that are not only common in English but have traveled across the globe: orange and tea. We'll uncover how these words evolved through trade routes, cultures, and languages. Stay tuned as we journey through history, exploring how these everyday words came to be.
Podcastandenglish.com, we're talking about the origins of two very common English words.
Yeah. So, in general, the word for the fruit orange has three forms, variations of those forms. So you have either the word orange, Portugal, or applesin.
All right, Jackie. So where does the actual fruit come from then?
Oranges, like all citrus fruits, come from Asia, South China, North India. And it was the Arabs who were the first to trade, to import the oranges into Europe. And the Arabic word for orange is naranj.
Okay, so it's arancia in Italian, naranja, is it? Laranja in Spanish, orange in French, and of course, orange in English.
Exactly. No, but then what's interesting is the Portuguese, also big explorers and merchants, they brought the sweet orange to Europe. So many languages call the fruit after them. So in Turkish, it's portokalo. Right?
Portobello?
In Bulgarian, it's portakal, right? And in Arabic, for the sweet orange, it's bortukal. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right.
Wow. But you also mention applesin.
Yes, that simply means apple from China, and it's used in countries like Germany, the Netherlands, Sweden, and Russia.
Now, I've got a drink that only, as far as I'm aware, has two words.
Right.
It's tea or cha, possibly chai as well.
Yeah, variations of those words, right?
And again, it's to do with the origin of the word and the trade routes.
Right.
Okay, so obviously tea again comes from the Far East and China. Both words actually come from the Chinese, but obviously, as you know, they've got different dialects. Now, chai is produced in one dialect, and that one came through the Silk Road, okay, through the land routes to Russia.
Through Central Asia, then?
Central Asia to Russia and Eastern Europe, so they all say chai.
Okay.
But the Brits, of course, we call it tea, and that comes from the Dutch, and they got it from the coast of China, from South China, where their dialect, they used the word tea or tea.
Okay, so what route did the Dutch take then?
Well, there was the sea route through Indonesia, India, Southern Africa, and Europe.
Okay, so that's why they all say tea there.
Indeed, and that's why we say tea in most of Europe.
Why is it therefore here in Portugal it's an exception? They don't say tea.
They say cha, because obviously the Portuguese were great traders as well, and they got their tea or chai from Macau, where they use the word cha.
It's interesting, isn't it, Richard? Because people complain that nowadays globalization is a new concept and everything is becoming very similar throughout the world. But this is such a good example of two words, the tea or the cha, which nearly everyone uses. And that's because hundreds of years ago, the goods were either spread overland or traded by seafaring Europeans.
And actually, I do think there is one word which everyone uses throughout the world.
Ah, yes.
Well, I've certainly never been to a country where it was not used, the word taxi.
Thank you for tuning in to today's episode of the English Daily Podcast, where we explored the rich history behind the words orange and tea. Before we go, let's take a moment to break down some interesting idioms and expressions connected to these words.
First, the phrase a bitter pill to swallow
can be linked to the tea drinking culture. Tea, especially green tea, was originally quite bitter in taste, and this idiom refers to something unpleasant or difficult to accept, much like drinking unsweetened tea might have been for some.
Next, spill the tea
Is a modern expression that means to gossip or reveal secrets. It shows how tea has become a social activity associated with sharing stories or juicy details, just like sitting down for a chat over a cup of tea.
4. Orange
We often hear the expression to compare apples and oranges, which means to compare to very different things. This reflects how oranges, though part of the citrus family, are distinct from apples, making any comparison between them unreasonable or unfair.
And finally, the phrase, "Not my cup of tea,"
is a classic English idiom meaning something that is not to someone's liking. Just like different people prefer different types of tea, not everything suits everyone's taste.
I hope these phrases add a little extra flavor to your English vocabulary. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. I'm Liv Morgan, and this is the English Daily Podcast, where every word has a story.
Welcome back, everyone. Today, we're diving into the magical story of Beauty and the Beast. This timeless tale isn't just about enchantments and castles. It's about finding true beauty and kindness within. So, as we journey through Belle's adventure with the Beast, keep an ear out for some interesting expressions and idioms we'll explore at the end.
Once upon a time, there was a wealthy merchant who had 3 daughters. The youngest, Belle, was beautiful, intelligent, and kind-hearted, unlike her older sisters, who were vain and selfish. Belle enjoyed reading and found happiness in simple pleasures, while her sisters wanted only luxurious things. The merchant adored Belle for her gentle spirit and humility. One day, the merchant lost his entire fortune when his ships were caught in a storm. With nothing left, he and his daughters moved to a small cottage in the countryside, where they had to work hard just to survive. The 2 older sisters complained bitterly about their new life, but Belle accepted her new situation and continued to find joy in her family and books. Months later, the merchant received word that one of his ships had returned safely to port. He was overjoyed, hoping that he could finally recover some of his lost wealth. Before setting out on his journey, he asked each of his daughters what they wanted as a gift. The 2 older sisters asked for fine dresses and jewels, but Belle asked only for a single rose. The merchant set off, and after arriving at the port, he was devastated to find his ship's cargo had already been seized to pay his debts. Saddened and defeated, he began his journey home. Along the way, he became lost in a dark, dense forest. After wandering for hours, he saw a mysterious castle in the distance. Hoping for shelter, he approached the castle and, to his amazement, found that the doors were open and the inside was lit with candles, as if someone was expecting him. The merchant entered and called out, but no one appeared. The castle seemed empty, yet a magnificent feast was laid out on the dining table. He ate heartily, grateful for the unexpected kindness. After his meal, he wandered through the castle's beautiful gardens, where he saw a rose bush blooming with the most beautiful roses. Remembering Belle's request, he picked a single rose to bring back to her. Just then, a terrifying roar echoed through the garden, and a monstrous beast appeared, furious at the merchant's theft. The beast accused him of repaying hospitality with treachery and threatened to kill him. The merchant begged for mercy, explaining that he had only taken the rose as a gift for his daughter. The beast finally agreed to spare his life, but only on one condition: the merchant must return with one of his daughters to take his place at the castle. The merchant reluctantly promised, and the beast allowed him to leave. When the merchant returned home, he tearfully explained the situation to his daughters. The older sisters refused to go, but Belle, knowing it was her request that led to her father's predicament, insisted on going in his place. She bid her family farewell and bravely set off to the beast's castle. Upon her arrival, Belle was met by the beast, who treated her kindly despite his frightening appearance. She soon realized that he was not as cruel as he seemed. The beast gave her freedom to roam the castle and its beautiful grounds and provided her with luxurious rooms, books, and wonderful meals. Over time, Belle grew fond of the beast, who showed her great kindness and understanding. They spent many evenings talking, and Belle was surprised to discover that he had a gentle and thoughtful nature beneath his monstrous appearance. One evening, the beast asked Belle if she would marry him. She gently declined, explaining that she thought of him as a dear friend, not as a husband. Though disappointed, the beast respected her answer and continued to treat her with kindness. He gave her a magic mirror that would allow her to see her family whenever she wished. One day, Belle saw in the mirror that her father was gravely ill. She begged the beast to let her visit her family, and he reluctantly agreed, though he asked her to return after 1 week. Belle returned home, and her father's health improved greatly upon seeing her. Her sisters, jealous of Belle's beautiful clothes and tales of the castle, tried to convince her to stay longer, hoping that the beast would grow angry and punish her. Moved by her father's love, Belle stayed longer than promised, forgetting about the beast's loneliness. One night, Belle had a terrible dream in which she saw the beast lying in the castle garden, dying from heartbreak. She awoke, realizing that she loved him and that he truly needed her. In a panic, Belle returned to the castle as fast as she could. She found the beast lying motionless in the garden, just as she had seen in her dream. With tears streaming down her face, Belle begged him to live, confessing that she loved him. At that moment, a magical transformation occurred. The beast's monstrous form melted away, revealing a handsome prince. The castle and its surroundings were also transformed, regaining their former beauty. The prince explained that he had been cursed by an enchantress for his selfishness and arrogance, and only true love could break the spell. Belle's love had saved him. Overjoyed, Belle and the prince returned to her family to share the news and bring them to live at the castle. The older sisters, now humbled by Belle's kindness and bravery, realized the importance of love and humility. Belle and the prince were married and lived happily ever after, ruling the kingdom with wisdom and compassion. And Belle's love story with the beast became a cherished tale, teaching generations about the value of inner beauty, kindness, and the transformative power of love.
Explanation of idioms and phrases. Let's break down a few key phrases and idioms from our story. Lost his fortune. This means to lose all or a large amount of one's wealth or money. In the story, the merchant lost his fortune when his ships were damaged, leaving him in financial ruin. Found himself lost. This phrase is used when someone realizes they're in an unexpected or confusing situation. For instance, the merchant found himself lost in the dark forest, meaning he was in a place he didn't recognize or know how to escape from. To be left in despair, despair refers to a feeling of complete hopelessness. When Belle didn't return, the beast was left in despair, deeply saddened and feeling hopeless without her. To break the spell here, it's both literal and idiomatic. In fairy tales, spells are broken by true love or bravery, but this phrase is often used to mean ending a difficult or challenging situation. Belle's true love broke the spell and transformed the beast back to his original form. Lived happily ever after. This phrase is commonly used at the end of fairy tales and stories to mean the characters went on to enjoy a joyful life. It's a classic ending line in many tales, symbolizing that everything turned out well for the characters. Thank you for joining us on this enchanting journey through Beauty and the Beast. This tale reminds us that true beauty lies within and that kindness has the power to transform. If you enjoyed the story and our idiom explanations, be sure to like, subscribe, and and hit the notification bell for more stories and language tips. Let us know in the comments which idiom or phrase you found most interesting. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and take care. Thanks for tuning into English Daily Podcast. We hope you enjoyed today's episode and learned some useful idioms and expressions to enhance your English skills. Remember, stories aren't just for entertainment, they're powerful tools for language learning. If you found this episode helpful, be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. We'd love to hear from you. Share your thoughts or practice sentences using the phrases we covered in the comments section below. Until next time, keep practicing, stay curious, and let's make learning English a part of your daily routine.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Fluent Guys. Today we have an amazing English learning video for you, featuring one of the most heartwarming and iconic movies of all time, Forrest Gump. If you're learning English, you're going to love this because we'll go over the story of Forrest Gump in simple English, breaking it down with easy-to-understand explanations. Plus, we'll dive into some of the most famous phrases and idioms from the movie, explaining their meaning to help you improve your vocabulary and listening skills. So sit back, relax, and let's get started.
Forrest Gump is born in the small town of Greenbow, Alabama. As a child, Forrest has a low IQ and wears leg braces, which makes him the target of bullying at school. However, despite these challenges, his mother, Mrs. Gump, teaches him important life lessons. One of her most famous sayings is, "Life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get." This means life is full of surprises, both good and bad, and you never know what's coming next. Forrest's legs heal, and one day, while running away from bullies, he discovers that he's incredibly fast. His running ability leads him to become a football star in high school. With his talent, he earns a scholarship to play college football at the University of Alabama. Forrest's ability to run fast opens doors for him that no one ever expected. After college, Forrest joins the U.S. Army and is sent to fight in the Vietnam War. He meets his best friend, Bubba, in the Army, and together they dream of starting a shrimp business after the war. But tragically, Bubba is killed in combat. Forrest also saves his commanding officer, Lieutenant Dan, who loses his legs and struggles with depression after the war. Despite these hardships, Forrest receives a Medal of Honor for his bravery. After the war, Forrest returns home, but he doesn't forget Bubba's dream. He starts a shrimping business called Bubba Gump Shrimp Company. With some luck and hard work, the business becomes a huge success, making Forrest a millionaire. But throughout his adventures, one person is always on Forrest's mind: his childhood friend, Jenny. Jenny's life is much harder than Forrest's. She grows up in an abusive home and struggles with drug addiction, poor relationships, and bad decisions. Despite this, Forrest always loves her unconditionally. They have a complicated relationship. Jenny drifts in and out of his life, always looking for happiness in the wrong places. At one point, Forrest becomes famous again by running across the country for over 3 years. His epic journey inspires people, and he becomes a symbol of hope. People join him, but Forrest doesn't do it for attention. He just feels like running. Another example of how his life follows its own path. Finally, after many years, Jenny returns to Forrest, and they get married. She reveals that they have a son, also named Forrest. But soon after, Jenny dies from an illness, likely related to her troubled past. Forrest is left to raise their son alone, teaching him the same life lessons his own mother taught him. Forrest's life comes full circle as he sends little Forrest off to school, showing that life continues, full of the unexpected twists and turns that make it unique.
Now that you've heard the story, let's dive into some key idioms and famous phrases from Forrest Gump that will help you improve your English. Life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. This means that life is unpredictable. You never know what will happen, just like you don't know what kind of chocolate is in a box until you taste it. Stupid is as stupid does. Actions speak louder than words. People are judged by what they do, not how smart they are. Forrest uses this to remind people that intelligence is about actions, not just knowledge. Run, Forrest, run! This phrase became famous as a way to tell someone to go fast or escape danger. It's shouted at Forrest when he first learns to run away from bullies, and later, when he's racing on the football field. I'm not a smart man, but I know what love is. This phrase shows that love doesn't require intelligence. It's about feelings and understanding someone deeply. Forrest says this to express how much he loves Jenny, despite his challenges. We were like peas and carrots. When Forrest says this about Jenny, he means they were close and fit together perfectly, just like how peas and carrots are often served together in a meal. It's a way of saying two people belong together.
That's the story of Forrest Gump. I hope you enjoy hearing it in simple English, and I hope you learned some new idioms and phrases along the way. This movie is a great way to understand important life lessons while improving your English vocabulary and listening skills.
If you liked this video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to Fluent Guys for more content like this. Let us know in the comments which part of the story or which phrase you found most helpful. And as always, keep learning and stay fluent, guys. See you in the next video.
The Fox and the Rainbow. Once upon a time, in a lush green forest, there lived a small, curious fox named Finn. Finn had bright orange fur and a fluffy tail that swished behind him as he explored the woods. Every day was an adventure for Finn, but today was special. As he wandered through the forest, a magnificent rainbow arched across the sky. Finn's eyes widened with wonder. "I've heard that rainbows are magical and led to treasure," he thought. Determined to find the end of the rainbow, Finn decided to follow it. He trotted through the forest, over hills, and across streams. Along the way, he met his friend Bella, the wise old owl. "Where are you going, Finn?" Bella hooted from her perch on a branch. "I'm following the rainbow to find its end," Finn replied excitedly. Bella fluffed her feathers and said, "Rainbows are beautiful, but they don't really have an end. They're just a trick of light." But Finn was undeterred. "I still want to try." So Finn continued his journey. He climbed a tall hill where he met Gary, the gentle giant bear. "Hello, Finn. What brings you here?" Gary asked, noticing Finn's determined face. "I'm following the rainbow," Finn explained. Gary chuckled softly. "Ah, I see. Well, if you're searching for treasure, you might find something special along the way." Finn thanked Gary and pressed on. As he descended the hill, he spotted a patch of wildflowers that glistened in the sunlight, creating their own little rainbow. Finn marveled at their beauty. "Maybe this is the treasure," he thought. He carefully picked a few flowers and continued on his journey. As the sun began to set, Finn arrived at a sparkling lake. The water reflected the colors of the rainbow, creating a breathtaking sight. Finn sat by the lake, feeling content and happy. Suddenly, he noticed something shiny in the water. It was a small, golden locket. Finn picked it up and opened it to find a picture of a smiling fox family. This must be someone's lost treasure, Finn realized. He carefully placed the locket in his little bag and headed back home. The next day, Finn showed the locket to Bella and Gary. They helped him find the family who had lost it, and they were overjoyed to be reunited with their cherished keepsake. Finn smiled, knowing that while he didn't find the end of the rainbow, he discovered something even more valuable, helping others and sharing happiness. And so, Finn learned that sometimes the journey itself is the real treasure. He returned to his forest home with a full heart, ready for his next adventure. And whenever a rainbow appeared in the sky, Finn would look at it with a knowing smile, remembering the magical journey that led him to discover the true meaning of treasure. The end.